Hello, David.
That'll get him. Oh God! Alright. So I think we're going to stop on the Rails example for tonight because the next thing I kind of want to go into is errors and validation for that page. And we don't have time to cover that tonight and talk about our game situation. So once again, I would like to reiterate that I'm disappointed that nobody participated in talking about the parameters for said video game or lack of video game. You saw the emoticon and you still didn't respond. That's what I gathered from that.
I was doing homework.
It was like you saw my plea and you didn't care.
I just think about it.
You had to think about it. Alright, so me and John kinda sat down a little bit today and talked about where the foundation of the app should start, how much of it we kind of want to do, and then where we want to, it's not mine, where we want to have y'all pick up and start. And so we'd actually like to be able to give y'all something to do to start discussing how to implement it tonight. Let me see. Do you have the repo on here? That's okay. I'll bring it up over here. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. All right. So, last time when we met, we laid down some base requirements. Okay? Now, the first thing I really kind of want to talk about with regard to this is how people are going to cooperate. All right? If we're going to have 6, 7 people programming in the same code base, we're going to be stepping on each other's feet. All right? This is what source control is for. All right? So this project is going to live in a Git repository. It's going to be on Bitbucket. It's going to be a class-wide project, so everyone's going to have right access to it. Okay? Something you've not had to do with your homework is most of the time you're the only people to commit in your homework and you push it up to your repository. Other people will be committing now. So whenever you get ready to push up changes, you're going to start seeing error messages saying you're not up to date. I'm not going to let you do that. And so you're going to have to pull the latest changes, resolve any merge conflicts, and then push up the code, your local code.
We have to do enter new commands in addition with the commands we've been entering.
The only one you'll have to add is git pull. Okay? Before, I think you basically were limited to having to use git clone, right?
Yeah.
So git clone, git push, git commit. Those were really the only 3 besides git status, right? Git add, okay. The only one you're going to add to that cycle is git pull. So what you're going to do is you're going to commit everything like you were before. You're going to add all your files to staging. You're going to create your commit. So just before you get ready to push, the only thing you're going to change is you're going to say git pull. And it's going to pull down whatever changes are on the repository that you don't have yet.
And what if these are things that we worked on, that the other person worked on? Will we lose our changes?
You're not going to lose your changes. What happens is, let's say, first, let's use an example like you were working in a completely different file from this other person. Same repository, different file, okay? He made some changes, you haven't pulled them down yet. His changes are up on the public repository, yours are not. You get done with your work, you commit, and you pull down. It integrates his changes in with yours, okay? It literally merges the head commits of your project and the project that's up in the repo. So it consolidates the 2 bits of code together, and you shouldn't have any conflicts because you were in 2 completely different files, all right? So now you still have your code, but now you have his code too, all right? then you can push up. And now anybody that pulls from the repo will have both of your code. Now, here's the more likely scenario though, because this is not a big project. This is a small project. We're only going to have so many files. So there are going to be some people stepping on each other's feet. There's going to be people editing the same files. Okay? Now we're going to try as best we can when we assign stuff to you to make sure that what you're doing doesn't directly impact someone else's productivity negatively. But you probably will see some merge conflicts happen. That scenario is when someone pushes up their changes, you've got your local changes, you finish your work, you pull, and when you do, it goes, whoa, I don't know how to handle this. Okay? And we're going to show you a merge conflict tonight and how to fix it. It's not complicated, it's not hard. Most of the time it's 1 or 2 files and you just need to edit 1 or 2 lines. Okay? But what it does is it says, hey, I see you two are working in similar areas. Both of you made changes to this file, and these changes took place in similar areas. I'm afraid to try to resolve this myself because I don't know whose changes should take precedence. You need to resolve this for me. And so it will show you both copies, their code and your code, and you can pick one copy and throw the other one away, or you can rewrite that section a little bit to where it uses implements of both. Okay? After you do that, after you resolve the merge conflict, please test it to make sure it still works. Then you have to make a new commit. Alright, that's going to be the weird part that most people are probably going to forget, and there will be some communication on Slack about that, I know. But after you make those changes, it's like you just modified a file all over again. You have to re-add it to staging, you have to commit it again, but then you're ready to push. Okay? So, the easiest way for me to actually do this is, and you know what? I'm going to use the test app project that we just got. Thank you. So the test app project is our Rails project that we've been dealing with. Okay? Now, if I make a change to it, all right, you did add a remote to this, right?
Yeah, but I think I broke the other.
Oh God.
I screwed up, for sure.
Did you?
Well, because this is a repo. I created a repo inside. I forgot we were in this already.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's foobar. But I know you know.
Did you push it up?
Of course.
Because I need to create a different copy of it anyway, so it's okay. So I'm just gonna clone it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I remove that repo and not break the?
Yeah, you can, but I have to make a couple of different copies to create a merge conflict anyway.
Yeah.
Now I have access to this, right?
You should.
Yeah. Is it cracking the code / contacts app? Contact
Sounds
app?
good.
Contacts app?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna know if it doesn't work. It's your lucky day.
Mm-hmm. That's your lucky day.
It's my lucky day. I know. That's not the right thing.
No, it is. It is.
That's the whole thing.
I know. I just told you.
Oh God.
So now go to classwork. It'll be there.
All right, I'll deal with it.
You can fix it later too.
I'll fix it later. All right. Oh God, you don't have them.
And you can.
All right. Sublime. Let's see. Okay. So nobody
No,
ever do
type,
this.
Type SUBL.
Oh, you've got the
A
alias, don't you?
Period.
Okay. So nobody do this. Don't always keep one copy of a repo on your system and use that one. The reason why I'm going to clone this again and do this a second time is because I'm trying to pretend like I'm two different people. So it's not. It's unbeautiful. It's stupid. So I'm going to.
For some people, it comes naturally.
Thanks. I don't know how to take that. Let's do copy this to contacts app. Copy. All right. So now we have a contacts app and a contacts app. Copy. So I'm not going to check the code, make sure it's running and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to trust that it is. Trust is a scary thing. And I'm going to add another folder to the project here. Son of a gun. There we go. Alright. It just replaced it, didn't it? Oh well. Alright, so I'm going to open up, let's say, the routes file. That's something that a lot of people have to edit in these applications. So we have our resources file here, and let's say this user added destroy. Okay?
Why would we destroy?
It's a mapping to a destroy action. So we come in here, I think this is contacts up copy now. I'm wrong. Okay. So we have changes. So this is where you would go about your normal business and say, okay, well, I'm going to add everything, right? We got things on staging. We commit with a message saying added the destroy route. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to, you know what, I'm going to use Vim anyway. I'm going to go to this other project. And in here, I'm going to say, all right, well, for some reason we had to take out the index action. Oops. Okay. Now I've got changes in this project as well. I'm going to add them. I'm going to commit it. Remove the index route. Now the difference is I'm going to push up here, and now this guy's changes are on the repo, right? So when I come back to my other application, I already see if I do a get status that I'm ahead by one commit, and I try to push. Okay, well it goes, oh, I can't do that. And the message it tells me is it says the remote contains work that I do not have locally. Okay? It says that right there in the error message. So that means I need to pull. Okay? So when I pull, if no conflict occurs, you will see everything merged successfully, and you will not have any outstanding changes if you do get status. But here you can see in the text it says, oh, I've got a conflict, all right, and I have an unstaged file. Okay? So inside the conflict it says I've got a merge conflict at this location. So it's in my routes file. It tells you what file it's in. And we're going to go back into Sublime over here, open our routes file, and this is what a merge conflict looks like. Okay? Right there. So one of these is the copy that I have of that line. The other one's the one that came from the repo. So in this particular scenario, I don't want to just keep mine and get rid of his. I don't want to keep his and get rid of mine. I need both. So I'm going to basically replace the two lines by saying, okay, well, I know we got rid of the index, so I'll leave that out. And I'm adding the destroy. So, yep, that adds up. Okay, now I can get rid of both of these. Remember to get rid of all the lines with the arrows and the equal sign and stuff like that. But does everybody see how this divides?
Yes.
Everything from here is one version of the commit. Everything from here to here is another version of the commit. Okay? I get rid of that. I just resolved a conflict. Now, all that's left to do is to add it. Okay? And then I commit. And I'll say merge conflict in routes. Okay? Now I'm ahead by 2 commits. One was my changes, and then the other one's to was to resolve the merge conflict of the stuff I pulled down. Okay? So now I can push up. So if I go to the repo and I look at commits, I can see that, okay, yeah, the added the destroy route came in first, then removed the index route came in, and there's a commit for resolving merge conflicts. Okay? And I can view the single changes in each of these. So anyway, that's a merge conflict. It's not complicated, it's just something you have to remember to do. And this will happen in this project. So just get used to seeing it. Don't panic when you see it. It's probably going to happen in multiple files at once, so clean up all the files and then commit and push up your changes. Now, one other thing we wanted to discuss was how often to commit. All right? How often do you commit right now on your homework assignments? When you're done. When do you think we're going to be done with the game? It's going to be a little while, right? So you can't really commit in the same fashion that you have been. So what you need to do is get in the habit of when you start working on a feature, break off a small chunk, get it working, make sure it's not conflicting with anything, commit it, and push that up, and then move on to the next thing. Okay? Small pieces. All right? This makes sure everybody stays in line with one another, because everybody's constantly pulling the new versions of the code. Okay? And nobody gets off on a tangent over here, does a week's worth of work, and then realizes the entire code base changed when they go to pull. All right? So try to commit often. All right? Do not, though, commit broken code. All right? That's a no-no. Okay? We hurt people for that in the real world. We hurt feelings mostly, but it's bad. All right? Your repo it's sacred. Okay?
The repo is a temple.
It is a temple. All right? You must respect the code base. Do not push bugged code or code you know is erroring out to the repo. If you need help with something, contact someone on Slack, get some help working on it, screen share, do what you have to do, but don't push it to the repo to go, I don't know why this isn't working, because you just broke it for everybody. Okay? And that sucks, especially when we've got 5 different people pushing 5 different broken pieces of code up. Then we're never going to reach completion on this. All right? Is there anything else you wanted to mention with regard to commits or get?
What's in our notes?
I don't know. You want to talk about Pivotal Tracker or wait until next week?
We'll wait on that.
Okay. Oh, you want to wait on modules too?
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll wait on modules until probably next week. Yeah, because I kind of want to show it to him in Rails. So, all right. Let's start designing our game. Okay? Now, we're going to go ahead and create a public repo for this, and we'll push it up whatever we have at the end of class. Okay? Most of the time, we will not be doing this project this way. Okay? Most of the time, everybody's going to be coding in here, working on different stuff when we're working on the game. The reason why I want to do this part is because we promised we'd give you a kind of a launching pad for this, and we want to build the launch pad together. That way you all understand what's in it.
The foundation.
All right? So we met for a little bit earlier and we built a game, or kind of the start of one. Okay. So I'm basically going to copy what I have over there. We're going to do it step by step. Okay. So none of y'all have to follow along and code this because you're going to have access to it later, unless you just kind of want to try to keep up for your own benefit. But you might get left behind on it because we don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to make a project. What did we decide to call this? Did we ever decide on a name? Okay. For now, it's called Game. I know. It's great. I told you, low-hanging fruit. Okay. Okay. Inside of here, I'm going to make a source folder, SRC. That's pretty standard for, hey, this is a source directory. You'll see that in Java. You'll see that in C++. You'll see it in a lot of variety of different languages. Universally, SRC means source. Okay? Most of our source files are going to go under there. All right? I closed it. Gosh. I'm so bad at this not Vim stuff. You have like 8 of them open. I swear. Okay. All right. Now, would anyone like to venture a guess where we need to start?
Initialize. Or make class.
Okay. Broader, like a higher level than that. Like what's the first thing we need to implement? If we're going to be talking about people logging in and starting playing this game,
The main menu.
it's a turn-based game. Okay, well, it's not going to have a main menu.
No.
Okay, it's not going to have a menu like our prompt account application or anything like that. So it is turn-based though, right? Or semi-turn-based. It's going to need user input. And we're going to want the game to keep running until it quits. So what, we've done this before.
Yes.
David's nodding. He's like, I know we need something like that. I don't know what it is.
Menu.
Okay, well, we don't need a menu, but we need something running, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What's
run method?
Okay, okay, all right, we'll go with that. So let's create a file. I'm just going to call it game.rb. Where did I save that?
Save it somewhere.
It's not here.
Mine doesn't always save instantly. It just kind of takes a while to refresh.
And it's not in your source folder?
I messed up. All right, new file. New file.
Down there.
Okay. Oh boy.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything. It's going nuts.
Follow along at this point.
There. All right. That's the same thing I did the first time.
It's possessed.
I think you have too many windows open is what it is. It's finally happened. Your computer has finally succumbed.
It collapsed under the weight.
All right. So we need a run loop somewhere. Okay? Right? Where should we put that? It is a great question.
I'm glad that you asked it.
I'm sure you are. Do you want to, okay, let's start by putting it here.
Yeah.
And then we'll move it.
Yeah.
Okay?
To its proper location.
So we need a class. What are we going to call it? What's it doing?
Starting page or something like that. Like the starting page or something like that, where it like kind of prints out the name of the game and what it is, and then it asks
Okay.
input from the user about what the name of their character is or what they're starting.
Okay.
with,
Well, so basically the things we need to start is we need a login prompt, we need a run loop, and let's say we need to be able to exit the game. That's our foundation. That's our starting point. Okay. We don't need to move around yet. We don't need to go through a character creation thing. We just need to be able to log in with some name. Okay. We'll get to the character creation stuff later. Log in, run loop, verify some commands maybe, and quit. Okay? So, I kind of like the term for this class just being game. So we start the game. Okay? What do I need to be able to do? We're going to eventually need some stuff for like loading some data and whatnot, right? We're going to have to load our world state. We're going to need some room to do stuff like that. So I'm just going to make a method here. This is probably going to change in the future, but just until we have something better figured out, I'm going to make a method called boot up. All right, so we're going to tell the game to boot up. All right, we'll handle any loading actions, any file loading that we need to do, we'll do it inside of this method. And then we'll start our run loop. Okay? Now, we might as well go ahead and put our login prompt right here for now. Okay? So, I'm going to say print, enter your character name.
Why not puts?
Print, the difference between print and puts is that puts out the text and then adds a new line character. Print is in line, so it just dumps out the text, and then where they're going to be typing is on the right side of that text. Okay? And I need to get user input, right? So I'm getting the name of the person. So we're going to say gets. We'll go ahead and add some other niceties to it too. Okay. All right. And let's just say, make sure it's working. Welcome. Okay. This isn't in my source folder though, so I'm going to move this guy, or well, let me just create a new one. Where's my new? What the heck?
It's the bottom. See, at the bottom of Jeremiah.
Oh, it sure is, isn't it?
Still in Jeremiah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and move this under here because this is our driver file, right? So what I'm gonna do is require the game, and this is where we're gonna start it. Okay. So if I run this guy, say okay, enter your character name. All right, we can log in. It's magic. All right, Game over. Well done, everyone. All right. What else do we need now? We need our run loop, right? What else do we need? What's going to be caught in the run loop?
Buffering, loading things.
Your, the whole game, but your input and
The input. Okay. Got it a little bit. I'm going to say the player. Okay. So I'm going to create a player class here. And just for kicks right now, the only thing I'm going to do is make it take in the name that we gather from the prompt. Okay? And I'll go ahead and use a reader for the name. That way I can get it back out if I ever need to see
You
it.
have to require the name in order for it to be able to access it.
Require...
Require the name from game.
No, I'm about to pass it in as a parameter.
Yeah, okay.
So right here, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to make a player, and that's the name. Okay. So I have a player. Let's go ahead and put this here. And a player probably has a session. Okay? It's their connected session with the game. All right? This, we were discussing this earlier. This might not actually end up in the final version of the game, but for now it's a good placeholder for a run loop. So I'm going to create a session class. All right? And the session is going to take in the player object. And this is where we will have our run loop. I would call that end, but you can't use end for obvious reasons. So, so we've got our run loop here, right? So we need our running flag, just like we did in our other applications, correct? And when someone calls run, we're going to change the state of that and say while we're running, do something. Okay? And all stop is going to do is set running equal to false. That way the loop terminates. Correct? All right. So what do I need to do inside the loop? Constantly gather user input, right? Okay. So let's print a small little prompt so that they can see we're waiting for them to enter something. And we'll collect the text that they enter. And let's sanitize it a little bit. So we'll put all the text in downcase, strip off end characters and leading characters, and let's start by just echoing it back to the user. That way they can see what they entered. Okay? Now if I go back to my game file, I need to create a session here. Pass the player in as a parameter and call run. Now I'm going to do something tricky here that y'all haven't seen before, but it makes life a lot easier. You notice I didn't put require anywhere at the top of any of these files, even though they're kind of using one another in some places. Since I'm already requiring game, and I'm kind of using that as the core for the application, I can put all of the require statements in there, since I'm going to be using all of them, and I don't have to put them anywhere else. Okay? Some people actually even have one file that they require that requires everything in their source file, and that's the only code that's in there. It's just a bunch of require statements. But we're cooler than that. So I'm going to include player and session. Those are the only other two files that we have here. See if I have any errors. Doesn't look like it right now. So I got welcomed, right? And you see that little arrow we have over there on the side indicating we have something to type in. And we're echoing our input. Okay. Let's go ahead and make it terminate when the user types quit. Okay, that way they can get out of the game.
You can never surrender.
So, easiest way to do that right now is, let's just say,
Stop.
we're going to say stop if text equals quit. Okay. There, out of the game. Okay. Now, obviously we want to do more than just echo, right? But we have a slightly bigger problem that we have to solve first, okay? We don't just want to parse strings, full strings. There's a problem with this echo program right here, because if I say, all right, well, if I'm just collecting input, I could say, hello, my name is Jeremiah, and it thinks that's the whole command. So we need to break this up, right? So inside of our text game, this is probably what we'll end up having. I'll type it in instead of writing it on the board. But most commands are probably going to come in this format. We have the command, which is the first word, and then potentially other parameters. So however many there are, we don't know how many there are. There could be one parameter, like we might have an examine command and we specify an object name to look at, or attack so-and-so because that's an NPC or whatever. We might have commands that have no additional parameters, or they might have 7 parameters. We don't know, okay? But we need something to facilitate this, right? So what I did was I made a command class. And this is actually a pretty simple class. All it does is it has a token, which is the command. Okay, so if I were doing quit, the token would be quit. Okay, and it has params, and params is going to be an array. Okay, pretty simple, right? And since a command needs both, let's go ahead and make them part of the initializer. But since params are optional, I'm going to give them a default parameter of an empty array. Okay. Pretty simple so far. All right. Now, instead of littering our session loop here, our run loop, with all of this code for sanitizing user input and whatnot, I made a, and because I think it's going to get more complicated as we go on, I made a command parser class. All right, does everybody kind of understand why that's necessary? All right. So all this is going to do is this is going to take in, it's going to wait for user input. Okay. When the user inputs something, it's going to clean that data. So it's going to take the string, remove any weird characters, put everything in the same case for us. And then I don't have to worry about converting it to a command. When it parses that text, it's going to return me a command. one of our command objects that we just made. That way everything's already nice and I can depend on that command object to wrap up those parameters in that token for me. So I'm just going to make a method here called wait for command, because that's what it's going to do, right? It's going to lock there until the user enters something. So let's print our prompt, and where's our get statement. All right, and so that's our parser for that. Now, what am I missing? What am I returning from that method? I'm missing a command, okay? I still have to take this big string of text, even though it's sanitized, and break it up into pieces and populate this command object with it, okay? Now, that's a little bit of a big job for a new method, an initialize, a constructor, okay? Because errors could happen, right? Usually you don't want cases where errors can occur when you're trying to initialize an object. So instead, and we'll go over this more probably if we have time at the end of the class or next class meeting, I'm going to make something called a static method or a class method on this command object, and you write it like this. So I'm going to write a parse method that takes in text, and we're going to do the logic for parsing the text right there and turning it into a command object. So everybody did string manipulation for a while. How do I break this up into pieces? Remember, it could be one word, it could be 3 words.
Space or something?
That's the best way, yeah. Look for a space. So I'm going to say, all right, well, I'm going to break this up into tokens, all right? Or we'll say all words. Well, that makes a little more readable sense. And I'm going to split that string on a space. So I'm giving it a string with a single space character in there, and it's going to say everywhere I see a space, I'm going to remove that space, and I'm going to cut the word right there, and that's going to be one of the elements in the array. Alright, so if I were in if I were in IRB and I had a string called Jeremiah is my name, and I split on a string, that's what I get back. An array with each word. Okay? So, I've got my words here. Well, the first one is my command token, isn't it? It's my command word. So I know that already. How do I remove the first element from an array?
All words dot
Delete removes a specific item from an array. We don't know what it is.
We do the thing with the 1 for the first word.
Mm-hmm. We do shift. Remember shift and unshift?
No, I don't remember that.
Shift, unshift, push, all those are methods to remove and add items to and from an array. Talked about them when we first got to arrays. Now, so I shift the first word out of the array. So now I'm left with So that's my array. I shift. It returns me the item that it removes. Okay? And I'm just left with the remaining items.
And we're taking the first one out because why?
Because our command object is the command token, which is quit. These are all optional parameters. They may or may not be there. It could be 1 word. It could be 50 words.
So it could be quit or
It could be quit.
attack Jeremiah.
Right. But I hope not. But yes. So if you look at split and stuff like that, let's just say it was quit. So the string was quit. Okay? If I split, okay, it still gives me an array with just that one item in it. So grabbing the first one is completely safe, isn't it? So if I have my array and I say array.shift, I get quit back because that's the first item in the array. And what am I left with? An empty array. And I can check to make sure that's empty. So when I go to say, oh, do you have any parameters? No, I don't.
I'm actually surprised that it split with looking for that space, considering you didn't type in a space.
Right. If
I'm
you
actually
include
very
it,
surprised.
if you include a character that doesn't exist in the string, the whole thing's the first token because it never reached that spot. So let's go back to our code here. So that's really all the wrangling of the string I have to do now, because now I've got my token and all words is now the remaining items in my parameters list if there are any. So I just need to say command.new token all words.
What if they write like I go left?
Huh?
What if they write like I go left?
Well, we're going to have to build in specific commands and say these are how you move around. So instead of saying, and we even talked about not wanting to go as far as saying move north or move south or something like that, and just saying north, south, because you're going to get tired of saying, and in fact, I think we went with just go in to go north. You can type out the full word if you want to, but just say in if you want to go north, because you're going to get tired of typing so much after a while. That's assuming you like playing the game you make.
This game sucks.
God, I wish I'd never been a part of this. Jeez. So all that's left for me to do here is say command.parse and pass that string into that method, and I get back a command object which is returned from this method. In Ruby, the last line of execution always returns, right? So now all I have to say is I've got a parser, and I don't have to do this anymore. I can just say parser, wait for command, and there we go. Now we have a command object. So it's parsed, it's cleaned up, and even further than that, I'd probably say, all right, well, let's make a private method for processing the command that takes in a command as a parameter and decides what to do with it. Okay, and so just to start with, let's say we do a case over the token. Okay, so when the text is quit, we're going to stop. Otherwise, we're going to print out saying that is not a valid command. Okay? Now, I can just say process command, pass the command in.
We're just doing it this way because quit is the only thing that we want to do.
Right now, yeah. We're going to add a lot more. And I don't even have to do that because I know parser is going to wait for returning a command. I can just say and pass the return of that directly into that method. So we've cleaned it up pretty well now. And it still functions the same way, hopefully. Wouldn't be much of a program if it didn't. Oh, you know what? I bet I forgot to add a few classes to our, yep. There we go. So now we get back feedback if we don't enter a valid command. That's a good first step, right? And we've already provided downcase to sanitize that input because we made a parser to handle all that for us. So even if I type quit in all caps, it registers it as the correct command.
You ready to quit it?
I really wanted to quit then.
Like, oh.
I think that was all we were going to do to get them started, wasn't it? Was there anything else? Because the rest of it was kind of play.
I don't know how to go through that.
You don't know how to go through this? Yeah, I mean, that's just refactoring stuff. I mean, I expect them to do that, so.
So why do you have two game hierarchy?
One of them's just because I didn't know what to name it. One is the actual game class. So we could rename this to anything. When we come up with a name for the game, I fully expect to rename that file. But this is the game class, and so I fully intend for it to remain game. But yeah, I think this is a good launch pad for people. So there's a lot left that we have to do to even have something that's really you can even call a game. Right now we basically have a command parser and a chat prompt that doesn't tell anyone anything and a quit command. So what were the two pieces we wanted them to try working on when we push this out?
The player creation and something else.
Rooms. Wasn't it? What wasn't it?
Rooms.
Yes. Okay. So,
Move and character.
what was it? Okay. So, all right. We're gonna push this up, and that means we're done with this pretty much. So, we're gonna create a repo that everybody has access to, and I think we're gonna split people up into groups, and we want one group, and you can decide amongst yourselves who wants to do what. One group is going to do character login creation. Okay? Just very rudimentary. Don't worry about the whole stat generation or anything. We haven't even decided if we want any of that yet, right? Because nobody got on the group game discussion this weekend.
What do you mean by character login?
Okay, so we already have to where it's prompting them for a name.
Yeah.
But character creation is more than that, right?
Yeah.
So
just, I mean, like when I mean login, do you mean like actual data persistence or?
no, not yet. No, because we need to talk about data persistence and password protection, or if we even want any of that stuff, and
On a console game?
file reading and writing, because that's going to be a big thing, and we'll get to that later. But anyway, right now, I'd be okay with just making a few additional prompts to what's there. And maybe selecting, is the character male or female? Storing that on the player object, stuff like that. A few different attributes like that maybe. And I would like you to break out this login script from the boot up. Make a different class that handles the login operation and gives back a player. Okay. The other group needs to start working on designing areas so that you can look at things or go north or south or whatever.
Oh, if then statements are.
Basically move around. Okay? So, and you don't have to start coding that immediately. Start the discussion on how this needs to be coded. Me and John will help you. So, anyway, let me push this up right quick. Come on, can anybody think of a name for this thing? This is getting really sad.
What are we gonna?
We gotta get a little farther along. Right?
No, we need to know now. Did anybody pick out a genre?
Are we supposed to do like
Space opera.
We're doing.
space opera?
I thought it was a fantasy. I thought
Fantasy
something
space
completely
opera.
different.
Oh, you see,
Space fantasy.
I know what the problem is. Nobody got on the game discussion forum. So,
Oh dang.
yeah.
Shots
Doesn't
fired.
Slack have a vote, some vote functionality?
I don't know.
You
but I
wouldn't
don't-
know.
I wouldn't know because
You
it's
wouldn't know,
it's a
Jeremiah.
horrible tool. So,
You
Hater.
think so?
He's
let's,
just a hater. Don't listen.
I'm just a. All right, let me see. Cracking the code. God, this is sad.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Give me origin. You don't have your user set up?
Did you
Oh, I
add a
think-
Git or a HTTPS?
Oh, I added Git. You don't have Git, do you?
Well, I have Git, but I don't have
You don't have a Git
SSH.
protocol SSH key though. That's all right. I'll forgive you. You're my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, friend. We went over this. What's your username?
Bernie JM.
All right, the source code is up. Everybody should be able to go clone that now. And everybody should be able to work on it. And make sure. Yeah. Oh, they only have read access.
Why is it yellow now? Not the others are blue.
Because this is a project.
Okay.
Yeah, they added something new. You can have multiple repositories for one project now and multiple projects for a team. They just added another layer of nesting, essentially. But all right, so students now should have right access, so don't break it.
Break.
You're going to break it.
You will break it. It's going to happen. It's just try not to, please. It hurts feelings.
It's gonna be David. He's gonna be like, well, I can jump in right now. We're good.
All right, so y'all are done, right?
Yep. Game done.
I don't hear anybody breaking up into groups or anything. This is
There's,
ridiculous.
Please join the game discussion on Slack. It's really heating up.
Yeah, come on.
There's one Git command that we didn't really, I don't think we've gone over it, but
Which one?
if you get to a
Oh yeah, that's
if you
a
get
good
to a
one.
point where you have just completely screwed up and you want to start over,
Tears are coming out.
this command will take you back to where the latest push or pull.
So look at my my repo on there. So I know it's kind of hard to see against the white backdrop right now. But let's say you accidentally just really messed up. So I'm gonna remove the whole source folder. Okay, that probably broke the project. I'm gonna say, all right. if you say get reset -- hard, just like he has it right there, it restores your copy of the code to the most recent pull that you synced with the server. Okay, so now you're back to a clean state, and I have the source folder back with all the files and all that kind of stuff.
That's close.
It was a close call.
So how do you, can we go through the how?
I'm done answering questions for today. I'm just,
I'll reach out on Slack.
I'm just messing.
How do you
Sorry.
bring that through the terminal? Like, how do you get, that stage where you
How do I bring what through the terminal? I'm not quite sure I understand.
repository?
Oh.
How do you get like
How do you
bring
clone
it
it?
down?
How do you clone it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, you want to bring up the web page? Okay. So, if you go to the web page, you should all have access to the web page. If you look up here at the top right corner of the repository, you see this little button, that drop down that says SSH. Okay. Click that and change it to HTTPS, and copy this link right here that it gives you. Okay, your username will be different. Okay, so it's not going to say Bernie JM here; it'll say your username. But copy that whole link, and inside of your terminal, wherever you want your directory for your project to be, say git clone and paste that URL.
If you click on clone, it'll actually give you the full command.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just copy that and paste it in terminal, and it'll do everything for
And
you.
it's going to create that folder for you wherever you're at. So, and it's just going to be called game because that's what we named it to be. Wow, you have pasted so much stuff.
Is that not what it was?
Yep, that's it.
Are you done with my charge? Because my laptop died.
I hear discussion.
You're done. So, check your local directory. Well, you got to change directories into the project. Remember, you just copied it down and created the folder. Now you can say git status.
How you doing now? Okay.
Oh, I'm liking this. This is great, guys. This is great. I saw Star Wars somewhere in there, so somebody just made me very happy.
We're having a discussion of if Star Wars is technical fantasy or sci-fi.
Well, it's both. It's science fantasy.
I'll weigh in.
Sci-fi.
Now you're gonna use Slack, huh?
Now I'm going to use... Well,
Yeah,
now there's a
alright.
good cause.
Well, good. I'm happy.
I have to install Slack on this computer.
I just use the browser. I don't install it. If you go to the
Sign in. What's the team name?
cracking the code 1, all one word, cracking the code 1.
Does the one have an underscore?
No.
Dude, is there any
Oh, David's typing.
Yeah, maybe Dave's joined.
Hey, Navy
He tried
Dave.
to go Doctor Who with it, not just
Who did?
maybe Dave. I mean,